Let's turn our attention to a story that has got me really derailed. You know how I don't like what's going on the trains. Shocking new research has revealed that ticket machines at railway stations charge passengers more than double what they would cost online. The best value fares were either unavailable or hidden among several options on many different machines. And on top of that, figures show that just 1 in 6 of government-controlled stations actually has a full-time ticket office. Let's talk to former Transport Minister Norman Baker. He's with me now. Norman, welcome to the
thank you, Mike.
Brand new Independent Republic of Mike Graham.
Very impressed.
Club. It's almost like a club. I think I might start calling it that. Thanks for coming in. We've got lots to talk about because there's some new strikes have been announced as well. But this racket with the tickets is really something else, isn't it? I mean, it's almost become like those tickets you used to find on planes where the person next to you's paid 20 quid and you've paid 300.
Yes. Well, look, I mean, the principle should be that wherever you buy a ticket, whether it's online or the ticket office or a machine, it should be the best possible price for the journey you're making.
Yes.
That's the standard that should be applied. And it's not applied. It's complicated because a lot of people now are buying split tickets. And just for your viewers, if you don't know, that's where you go. You complete the journey as normal, but you, theoretically, buy a ticket from A to B and B to C rather than A to C in one go.
Yes.
And that comes out cheaper. Now, you can do that online because there are sites like, well, I shouldn't advertise them, which advertise those particular products.
Yes.
But, of course,
do they help? Because I've heard Simon Calder's told me about this before, where he's gone, you know, if you're going from London to Bath, if you get a ticket from London to Reading, and then from Reading to Swindon, and then from Swindon to Bath. Right. But, I mean, unless he had told me that, I wouldn't know it. Do these places tell you that?
No, they don't tell you that, and you have to get a train that stops at the stations. Even if you don't get off, you have to get a train that actually stops there.
Right.
Now, the trouble is that not every train will stop at every station.
Right.
And therefore, when you go online to buy split ticketing, you have to buy a particular train, not the next train.
Yes.
And of course,
so you have to get that train.
That train. Yeah. And at a ticket office, or a machine, in fact, they don't know which train you're going to get, so they offer you the one which is not split ticketing, which is often more expensive.
So if you're on a split ticket train, and forgive me for sounding dim here, do you get off the train, get back on it again?
No, you just stay on it, but the train has.
Oh, you don't physically have to get off.
No, there's no difference.
Because I used to travel quite a lot by train up and down to Sussex. One of the reasons I gave up was because on Sundays it was so often a replacement bus service.
Tell me about it.
I just got a car, right? But I once had something happen which was so bizarre, I didn't quite know what to do. I got down to the station. It was Battle Station at the time. Ticket office was closed, ticket machine didn't work. Got on the train, and there was hardly anybody on it. It was a Sunday night, funnily enough. And finally, the ticket collector comes around, and I said, well, you know, I need to buy a ticket. He said, well, I'm going to have to charge you the full whack, whatever it was, not the cheap rate. And I said, why is that? He said, well, because you didn't come and find me. And I went, sorry? And he said, basically, if you get on a train without a ticket, it's your duty to go and find the ticket collector before he finds you. Otherwise, you have to pay more.
That is a principle they work on, but it's not advertised.
It's very odd.
And you don't know it.
Right.
So that's another problem.
Yeah.
The railway replacement busting, by the way, infuriates me because it's based on travel patterns in the 1950s.
Right.
Saturdays and Sundays are now really busy days on the railway, and they take trains off. On Christmas Eve, we had Euston, King's Cross and Paddington all closed. That's a disgrace.
I know. Well, my daughter was going in between Christmas and New Year, going down to Stroud from London, and had to end up hiring a car from Heathrow because there was no way to get out of Paddington Station. There was no way to get a train basically anywhere into the West Country. So the whole train business seems to me to have just collapsed in on itself. I mean, like many things in this country, not only does it not work, but the infrastructure just seems to have disappeared.
Well, to be fair to the railway for a moment, the network is the most heavily used in the world, near enough, and therefore it takes a pounding on the number of trains on it.
Yes.
Having said that, they have to adjust. And it's far better, frankly, with people now working from home half the time, to take trains off on a Monday or a Tuesday rather than a weekend.
Right.
So they haven't adjusted to the new patterns post-COVID.
Right. And why do you think it hasn't adapted to the way that we have sort of modernised? Because, I mean, depending on who you talk to, if you listen to Mick Lynch and Mick Whelan, they say it's the greedy operators who are keeping all the money for themselves and buying themselves lavish houses in Barbados and elsewhere. If you listen to the ministers currently now, they'll say, well, we can't give them any more money because, you know, we're limit up, we don't make any more money, we're still subsidising the train services. So who's screwing it up, I suppose, is my question.
There is more money going into the railways than it was because the numbers haven't quite recovered from COVID.
Right.
There's also a lot of fraud, frankly, which isn't being captured because the train companies now get money direct from the government to run the service.
Right.
They don't have an interest in collecting the fare box anymore.
Right.
They're no better off or worse off if they don't collect money.
Right.
So that's a disgrace. So we're
still subsidising them to a large extent, aren't we?
Well, we are. I mean, there's a public value to the railways that shouldn't be underestimated. If they weren't there, there'd be a major problem in the country.
Yeah.
So it's right to put money into the railways, but they're not running as efficiently as you should do.
Right.
And the problem at the moment, Mike, is that they are effectively on neutral,
Yes.
on autopilot, because there's no decisions being taken ahead of the general election.
Yeah.
There's still strikes going on, as you mentioned.
They've just announced new ones for February, haven't they?
They have, and
Yeah.
this is like First World War trench warfare,
Right.
because no one's going to get in the ground, ASLEF aren't going to give in, and the government's not going to give any more money. So we just carry on. The only people who suffer are the public.
Well, I mean, we saw, for example, a Department of Transport study, I think, that came out just like a couple of weeks ago, saying that I think transport travelling is down on trains pre-pandemic by about 26%. Because I think people now just find them so unreliable that they can't use them all the time.
Well, it depends where you go. I mean, if you look at the East Coast Main Line, for example, up to Edinburgh, that's actually outperforming what it was pre-COVID. And that's partly because there's an open access operator, Lumo, with really cheap fares.
Yes, but they've struggled to find people that can operate at a profit there, haven't they?
Well, they have been in the past, but
Right.
it's now got higher numbers than it had pre-COVID.
Okay.
What's not recovered is the commuter market around London in particular, because people now don't have to go in 5 days a week. And that's a difficulty.
Yeah.
And people
that's
are now,
one of my bugbears. They should be going in 5 days.
well,
That's
they
another
perhaps they
story.
should. But also they're now going so-called off-peak, because they're now negotiating with their employers and say, well, come in at 11 o'clock.
Right.
And they're getting off-peak ticket. So although they're still travelling, the actual value per passenger
Yes.
has gone down.
But an awful lot of people have probably moved out of London as well, or when they would buy a season ticket maybe 5 years ago, they're just not buying season tickets anymore.
No.
Because why would you? Because they're so expensive.
Well, they are very expensive, and you know that's another thing that hasn't changed. You know, the idea that we have people going in bowler hats and umbrellas between, you know, at peak hour and coming back at 5 o'clock.
Tunbridge Wells and all that.
That's all gone.
Yeah.
And the railway hasn't adjusted to it.
No. So how does it end, though? Because Sadiq Khan managed to find 30 million quid stuffed down the back of his sofa in City Hall
Yes.
to call off the tube strike. Is that the way that Labour is going to approach this, you think? When they get in, if they get in, are they going to suddenly roll over to all of these demands from the unions?
I don't think they will.
I don't think they will either.
So I think ASLEF may be banking on the fact that they will, and I think they'll be mistaken, because Rachel Reeves has actually been quite firm on the matter. So I think it will go on. I mean, there was quite a hard-hitting announcement from the Rail Delivery Group, the operators, saying this is what we're trained over to get, this is the number of hours they work. It was quite hard-hitting. And the irony is, because of course the rail unions want nationalisation, the irony is the train drivers have done exceedingly well from privatisation, because before it was privatised, the railway network had one employer, British Rail, to negotiate with. After privatisation, there were multiple employers.
Yeah.
And none of them wanted to spend the money on training drivers because it's expensive. So what they did was put the wages up and poach them from some other company.
Right.
So they've been going up and up and up, the wages.
Yeah, I mean, they're not paid badly, are they? I mean, there's no reason really for them to strike, and they've got some pretty good, what I would call still Spanish practices, where, you know, you get on a train, drive it for a bit, and then you get off the train, then you don't have to do anything else.
I think
that's the end of the day.
Yeah, I think ASLEF have got a point that the wages haven't gone up in the last 2 or 3 years. But actually, if you look at the last 10, 20 years, they've done quite well.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, I mean, is there anybody selling the idea that maybe we should just do without drivers? You have driverless trains.
Well, that might be a time for the future.
Yeah.
You have to get the signalling sorted out and everything else, but that's some way away. I mean, I think people would not necessarily feel very comfortable with that. And also the fact is that people actually want two people on the train. They want a guard or a conductor or someone there to make them feel safe. So I think people want two people on the train rather than one or none.
Well, it depends who you talk to, I suppose. Norman, listen, great to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. The future is indeed bright, depending on who you talk to. And you might not be able to get from point A to point B on a train. You're watching the one and only Independent Republic of Mike Graham.